Hello guys, my name is Amit Sani and I welcome you in this daily Hindu analysis video. In the morning these videos come and in the evening the PIB videos come, both in Hindi and English language. So PDF you will get on the Telegram channel, and we are going to shorten these videos now because UPSC notification is out and you people will have less time. So we will make these things faster. 21st February it is and today is Thursday. Many articles are there, we are going to discuss them. And the quote, quality is not an act, it is a habit. It's perfectly right. Aristotle always told about the virtues, and he always said that a good deed, improved virtue, is not an isolated event. It's never a single effort. It's always a series of effort that is done according to a habit. So we need to cultivate the habit, and if you work consistently for a longer period of time, then only you will get the results, big results. Okay, so for big success, for big results, for big achievements, always you need to go with the habit. Whether you are a sportsman, whether you are preparing for UPSC, whether you are any kind of achievement you are doing, then always you will see one common thing, that is habit and a consistent effort. And that is why UPSC is totally about the habit of reading, studying, and having patience, struggling with your life, and all these things. They all should come as a habit. Otherwise, it is never possible that big goals are achieved with a short period of time effort and there is no habit involved, and that person, you will never hear that any person cleared UPSC just with the study of 1 or 2 or 3 4 months time, and he never had this habit of reading and studying things in an analytical way, and he never had the writing practice habit and all. So habit is the ultimate thing here. Without that, nothing is possible. These are the numbers there, you can call and you can ask for these pen drive courses by StudyIQ. Extremely important, daily I tell you about them. Investigation tracking system for sexual offences, ITSSO, is launched by, you see, it is launched by Ministry of Home Affairs. I think I have marked this option, I have highlighted it wrong. It is actually C, it is not D. Okay, it is C, and launched by this. And you see, one emergency number was also launched with this, that was 112. And especially the security of the women is focused here, because that is the main issue in India, and it is all regarding the security scenario. That is why Ministry of Home Affairs. And you see, emergency response and support system, the same information related with the same issue. Launched in all states? No, not in all states. 16 states and 3 union territories right now, and later it would be extended gradually. And 112 is the number, not 116. So both statements are wrong, and D is the answer here. Third, SIPAD. It's not the sanitary napkin cyclable one, and it's not a air defense system. So all these options are wrong. And in the especially in the science and technology section, UPSC is asking these kind of questions. Here you can see on Monday it was inaugurated Cyber Prevention Awareness and Detection Center, SIPAD. So cyber prevention is the main thing, and you see this criminal investigation issue is very crucial. Whether we talk about the terrorist attacks or any kind of crimes, then the forensic labs and these forensic investigation is of prime importance, and they can solve many cases, almost all the cases, because they also collect data and they analyze that with the recombinant DNA technologies and all. So their work is very crucial. So here in these cyber crimes, the SIPAD is launched there, and it is under the Cyber Crime Coordination Center of India. So these national security agencies and Delhi police, they are going to use this, and NCFL, National Cyber Forensic Lab, it is in Dwarka, which is in Delhi. So it is regarding that. So D, none would be the answer here. And this is the data I had explained to you yesterday. National Survey on Extent and Pattern of Substance Use. You see, substance means the drug addiction and the chemicals and particular drugs which are used in the addiction. So in Punjab, Haryana, it's a huge problem. Whole youth of Punjab is devastated because of this substance use. So the crucial report was very important. Last it came in 2012, and right now this year it is given by NDDTC, that is working under AIMS. So they both times in 2012 and 2019, this is done by Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. Okay. Both time this ministry was involved. So Ministry of Health was not involved here. So this second statement is wrong and first is okay. First is right. This time it is done by NDDTC. Last time it was done by a United Nations body. But the organizing ministry was Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. It's a social issue mainly. So only one is the correct answer here. Next, these words that I found, try them in the sentences, and daily it should be a practice. You cannot learn English by joining any course or something, so you have to improve that, and I'm telling it for the Hindi medium students mainly, and not for English medium students. So the employment test, this article we are going to discuss, going to be extremely important for the GS paper 2. Some repeated issues are there, some criticism is there for the government, and this article we are going to discuss, it is regarding the most favored nation status and the non-tariff duties and all, and the very crucial points are being raised here. It is also going to be important for the GS paper 2. And this issue of reservation, you see many big articles are going to come on this particular issue. So after this 100th amendment, where 10% reservation is given to the economically backward classes, and that is under the general category, now the Pandora's box is opened. Now it is the turn of state of Rajasthan, where the issue of Gujars was going on, and you see Gujars as their group, they have been demanding the ST status. Okay, and for many years, around a decade, this problem is going on, and many times, many disruptions we have seen, many lives are lost because of this particular protest. And this demand was actually opposed by first by the ST groups, major ST groups only within the state, and bloody wars happened between these groups, and many people were killed, but still they did not leave this demand. And now the ST demand was not approved of them, and they were given some a particular special reservation under the extremely backward category, and now 5% reservation is being given after this 10% limit that is given by the center. So center actually took this decision at first, and now all states are going to follow this, and it is going to be a huge problem. You see, the reservation issue in Rajasthan is very skewed. Already you see, we have seen many cases in the Rajasthan State Public Service Commission's data. If we see the prelims cutoff, then for OBC category it was around 100, and for the general category it was around 75 to 80. So OBC cutoff is higher than the general category, and this bizarre issue we have seen in the state, and now many protests are happening, and it is happening consecutively for the second time. This also happened in 2016, so it was a problem at that time, but that was not fully solved, and till now that matter is hanging in the court. And you see, when last time Supreme Court denied that 50% limit cannot be flouted, but center itself, they flouted this, and you see, they announced in the previous Lok Sabha election, when they said that whoever is going to flout this 50% limits norm, then that government is doing something fishy there, and they are not being honest. And now they themselves have done it, and 10% reservation is given to the general category, where economically backward people, they are given reservation, but the conditions of 8 lakh rupees annual income and the 5 hectare land conditions, these are very controversial. And now all these states where bloody protests we have seen in the past, now they are going to continue again, because this Pandora's box is opened again. So this issue, many articles we are going to see in the future for that. So we are going to discuss that later, and this article is not important for us, and this is a specific report, not important for us. We are going to discuss this. This is regarding the private sector's contribution that can be there in the health sector. So the employment test, the article says that every government, every political party, they have to go through this employment test, because there are specific conditions in this country, where country is a young nation, and in this particular phase where we have around 10 to 15 years to cultivate this demographic feature of this country, which is not yet a dividend. This can turn into a disaster if employment and skill upgradation, that is not there. And in this difficult time where automation is increasing and the companies are investing in the artificial intelligence and all, and even government is investing in the artificial intelligence, then the unemployment scenario is going to be the biggest demon of the world. And in this particular phase, the unemployment condition in India is really risky and very dangerous. And in the report they are saying that our economy is actually a symbol where we are progressing really or not, that is apparent. These statistics which are actually not available today, right? Statistics are not available today, and whatever controversy has erupted, actually that does not amount to much difficulty, because observing our economy is it's a kind of a simple thing, because it's an aspiring nation and more educated youth are there. So certainly they are going to ask for the jobs. But one concept is there is of the labor force. What is labor force? And employed people plus the people who are actively seeking the jobs or they are aspiring for the jobs. So both of them, they make this category of labor force. But there is a decline in the numbers of total labor force. That means whether the employed are leaving their jobs, or these aspiring people, they are no more looking for the jobs, they are hopeless and they are living a life of depression. So this condition is really not good, and this should have never come like this, because there were more opportunities, our economy has been growing and macroeconomic measures are stabilized. And when they have appreciated the Washington consensus concept, where free market and demand and supply concept and less government and more governance and government working as a facilitator, these kind of norms were appreciated when this tenure of the present government started. So when they proposed and they intensively followed the idea of Washington consensus, which is actually talking about the globalization and the free market concept, okay, against the Soviet Union's socialistic policies. So when they actually promoted this idea, they have not followed this up properly. Otherwise there would not have been this kind of situation where unemployment has been doubled and tripled in this country. And it is not only this particular tenure of the government. This unemployment problem is there since 2011, and from 11 till 15-16, the number of unemployed people or the unemployment ratio has been doubled in this phase. So they should have taken many steps in the year of 2016, and these should have come as a policy measures to control the situation, and they should have flagged this particular scenario that unemployment scene is very bad now and we need to take steps. But whatever we see today, these are actually total ignorance issues, because where they needed to take steps in 2016, they brought demonetization and the implementation of GST that had actually worsened the situation. So whatever we saw, that was the worst condition than the 2016. And you see, when in 16 the unemployment ratio was doubled since 2011, and in the last 3 years the situation is really has become worse than that situation. So what do we do now? This is actually a political test, where in this phase where we are trying to achieve the demographic dividend and more educated and skilled labor is available, educated youth are available and they are aspiring for the job, then you should have gone for the employment opportunities, much more employment opportunities. But now when they are producing the data of mudra loans and EPFO, then certainly some problem is there and they are not able to release the actual statistics of the Labor Bureau and the employment data. So this is actually a problem. Whenever the performance of the government and our economy is assessed, then for the last 3-4 years, always finance minister talks about the falling inflation and the budget deficit since 2014. Problem is, always the unemployment debate is pushed back by these highlights of the falling inflation and the budget deficits since 2014, because there have been reasons of this inflation rate falling, because the oil prices, they have been low since 2014, and there has been a drastic decrease in the international oil prices, and that's why the inflation is very less since then. And the WPI and CPI both are actually recording low numbers there, and this thing is hailed by government again and again. So they are always thumping their chest because of the falling inflation. But the problem remains that when our economy is growing with very good numbers, and it is a totally jobless growth, and that's a unique phenomenon. The whole world is looking in India, that economy is rising with very fast pace. We have become the sixth largest nation in the terms of GDP numbers, and now we are going to surpass UK very soon. So in this particular growth, why there are not jobs? Because this is a young nation, and if this young nation is there, then certainly there should have been many job opportunities, and they should have been in abundance. But what we are seeing, we are looking just opposite things, and there is a long silence on the jobs. And it is not only about the BJP or the current ruling party, it is also for the last government, and for all the governments. They always try to hide these data, and because their promises are not fulfilled every time. But this thing has become much more intensive in the recent times, and that is why it's a problem. And the problem is also there because we are targeting the demographic dividend issue, and we have only 10 to 15 years framework, so we have to do everything in this particular phase. And now we are looking that they are not able to release the actual data. So what is the problem? The independent agency of CMIE, always this data is given by this particular institution. After especially 2015, they have been collecting the data, and they are producing some actual reports, and this institution is quoted by the Hindu a lot of times in the recent articles. So this says that the evidence they provide tell two stories. First, the Modi government has had next to no success in generating employment, because things are apparent. That is seen because our economy is a particular type of economy where things go automatically without need of very specific data. All the policy making needs data, and performance need certain data. That's perfectly right. But this scenario, overall scenario, general scenario, that can be seen easily with many other symptoms and many other simple reports, and that shows that unemployment is rising with a fast pace. And you see, a development that may require some effort to understand fully, but which nevertheless it is important for the citizens to do. Means they need to understand this thing because it's a political issue and it is related to our future, so we need to understand that. The writer says that the labor force may actually have shrunken while it has been in office. The labor force is the sum of the employed and those unemployed who are seeking employment, as I told you. And shrinking of the labor force, that is actual data. The labor force is shrinking, as I told you, whether the employed are losing their jobs or the active job seekers are not trying to find new jobs. So the decline in the labor force is the biggest evidence, because this situation should not have been there, because the way we were going, the kind of goals we had, we needed employment. If employment is not generated, then certainly the policy failure is evident. And here you see, according to CMI, it's a private Indian body who is finding these precise mechanism and all these data. They have been looking at the trend before 2015 and after 2015, where there is no data regarding employment. They have been collecting the samples, so they are giving some robust information on the unemployment scenario. And they say a section of those hitherto willing to work may have simply dropped out of an already challenged labor market. This happened after demonetization, that already the job sector was very much stressed, and big policy announcements should have been there in the favor of employment, but they brought mudra loans and all these things, but those were of evidently less impact on the job scenario. And after that, this demonetization, the situation got worsened. Okay, so discouraged worker effect, this is a particular term. You see, in whole world this thing was seen, This thing was seen during the booming economic phase of the world and during the Great Depression and the recession time also, where market forces are so strong that individual labor's contribution and the impact of individual employment, that is not much, and always market forces are very, very strong. And you see, when these workers are discouraged, when job market is stressed, then the active job seekers, they will lose hope in a very fast pace, because they think that we will not get any kind of job. We have been roaming around for many days and this job market is totally gone and there are no opportunities, and the people who are already in the job, even they are losing their jobs. So that is why the new people, the new young cohort which is coming, that is going to be hopeless. So this is the scenario of discouraged worker effect, and it has been seen in the Western economies. Public policy must respond with alacrity to growing unemployment, but that was not done. And now see, it was more a demoralization with the demonetization and the demoralization of the job seekers, and they lost their hopes, and that is why the labor force is coming down in numbers. And rising unemployment since 2011, they must have recognized and they must have addressed this issue in 2016 year, but instead of that they brought demonetization and they made tall claims. So it is much of the criticism for this present government, but this data is actually having a certain logic and we need to think about that. And you see, many arguments can be given in this situation, positive and negative. So these are all counted under the negative arguments with the assessment of the economy and the specific job sector of our country. Okay, next you see, now when this is situation like this, that elections are due and no more efforts can be brought up by government. Now this is end time, and this is totally a time of populist schemes, measures and all, and they are actually doing that. In this scenario, they need to address some issues, they need to produce some real data. That is the best thing that they can do, and so that whenever the next government comes, they can move ahead with a right solution, right particular policies, because right data would be available. If that is not given, then the next government is also gonna struggle with this, and maybe they have set a precedent that the next government is also going to hide these data and all, and all these political considerations, sometimes discussions, sometimes blame shifting, that is gonna happen forever. And you see, one more important component is there, that is capital formation, and for that we need capital expenditure, and that has been declining since 2011. This is happening, but no government, not this government and then not the previous government, they addressed this issue, and they should have addressed this issue if they were promoting the Washington consensus idea, because there we needed to improve in the manufacturing sector that we had missed already after 1991 phase. This sector somehow got some boost. Otherwise, we totally skipped the manufacturing phase and we straight came to the service sector economy phase from the agricultural surplus economy. We missed the middle phase, that was of the manufacturing sector. So that needed a focus there, and these schemes like Stand Up India, Startup India, Make in India, they were for this manufacturing sector especially, but they could not be of much success, and that's why capital expenditure was a must. But our banks, they are failing a lot, and this public expenditure and public investment, that is perilous, that has been perilous, and that should have been good for the employment generation. If that thing is not done, that investment is not done, and this capital expenditure and this capital formulation, that is not possible, then certainly employment is not generated. That is a clear evidence. So these are the evident things, and all the governments, previous one and this one, they both are responsible for this situation. Right now what they need to do, that they need to come up with all the solutions that I explained to you. And what is the cost of failure? We cannot in isolation achieve the outcomes we desire, even when they are exclusive to us. So employment opportunities are exclusive to us, And these goals in the manufacturing sector, these are exclusive for us if we want to become a superpower. Without capital formation and capital expenditure, we can never become a superpower. That's evident. And you see, these macroeconomic factors, although we are thumping our chest with the falling inflation rates and our work on the fiscal consolidation measures, but this is because of other reasons like less prices for international crude oil. So that is happening with different reasons, and here we need to work. We are actually highlighting those achievements which are happening for different regions, and we are actually pushing the unemployment debate back. That is the trouble. And market forces are always very strong. Always they are very strong. And there are going to be helpless people, helpless employed people, and helpless active job seekers, because they are dependent on this market force which is so strong. So we need to improve this market force scenario. Otherwise, individual efforts, they are not going to be fruitful for the unemployment sector, and these aspirations of the job seekers, they are never going to be fulfilled. And more people, they will leave the job cohort and they will become depressed, and ultimately it is never going to be good for our economy. Even economy can become a depressed one. Next article, more symbolic than punitive. In this article, the writer is saying that whatever we have done in terms of raising the import duty to 200%, it is hardly going to have a punitive impact on Pakistan, because the writer is producing some data here. They are saying that it's just a dent. If we look at the trade scenario, then there are two types: formal trade and informal trade. And formal trade is the official one, and here the numbers, although they are rising, they have reached up to $2.41 billion. Okay, that is the scene, but that's not a huge number. The informal trade, that is around $4.71 billion, and that is just double of it. And we cannot do much about this informal trade in this and this particular informal trade relations between India and Pakistan, because trade and duties and all these restrictions, they are not working on the informal trade. They are only working on the official formal trade, and there it is also in a favor of in the favor of Pakistan's country, because we are a net exporting nation. Our exports amount to 80% of the trade, and rest are the imports, and we are raising these duties on imports. So certainly Pakistan is not going to be affected much. And this is evident in the international trade, where it is always seen that if one country wants to take revenge in a sense, and they are trying to solve some trade issues with raising these tariff duties and all, that is never working. We can clearly see in the trade wars, tariff wars of the US and China, this is happening. So this is not going to help actually. We need to see here, and things are more in favor of Pakistan. If we are raising these duties, then certainly officially Pakistan is also gonna raise these duties on our exports. So our exporters would be in trouble, because our export numbers are higher than our imports from Pakistan. So that's the trouble. And unless stringent actions are not taken, then things are not gonna be a big change, and we need to work on this informal trade issue. Here the writer is saying that there are green channels where these importers are selected in India, and they are given some license, and they can import items from Pakistan, and where they reach up to their factories, and after that they can be checked, and if they find any kind of difficulty, any kind of flaw, then certainly their green channel can be stopped. But these things are going on, and under these personal baggage scheme of these green channel, the traders carry out informal trade between Pakistan and India. So the major issue is of the informal trade, that we need to focus here, and we are focusing on the formal trade. And revoking this MFN status means we are going to do some kind of partiality with Pakistan, and we are going to less favor Pakistan in comparison with other countries of WTO. So maybe officially it's a statement, it's a big symbol, it's a symbol of protest, but it is not going to affect practically. That is the trouble. But you see, it's a great dilemma for the government, what it can do now. if it does not revoke this MFN status, certainly it would come under this immense criticism by the people of India. And this particular emotional outburst, that is also legitimate on the people's side, and we need to address that also. But you see, if we go through the economic side and trade side, then these things are not going to be fruitful, and in the end this is going to be counterproductive for our exporters only, because we are exporting much. And you see, there are three channels, as I told you: official route of this export import method, and informal route, where I told you that smuggling is a method, and sometimes we export things officially to Afghanistan, and from Afghanistan they are smuggled to Pakistan, and that's a huge issue. It's not a small number of smuggling items, it's a long list, and it's a huge trade. But that's informal trade, and in both the countries, India and Pakistan, very poor people they are living, so cheap items, they are always appreciated. And through these informal ways, where tariffs are not allowed and all these restrictions are not there, if anyhow they are reaching that country, then certainly things are available with a cheaper price. So these things are not easy to counter, and this informal trade, we need to focus here. And third one is by the route system. If we export something to a country like Saudi Arabia, Dubai, and from there they are being exported to Pakistan, so anyhow these things are not going to stop, because things are important, and these trade items, they are also very crucial. So anyhow Pakistan is going to get these items, and we are going to get the Pakistan's items. So this stoppage of this trade is not totally possible. Non-tariff measures, if we talk about non-tariff measures, then Pakistan imposes more duties on us. And if I tell you the right number, Pakistan imposes a large number of non-tariff measures on Indian items as 143, and it is on Indian exports. So certainly if it is having a rise, and Pakistan in protest, if gonna retaliate and they are going to raise these duties, then certainly Indian exporters, they are going to be devastated. And Pakistan imposes other important barriers also. You see, export related measures 25%, and technical barriers to trade 25%, sanitary measures 22.4%, and these are all coming under the WTO measures. These are all important items under the WTO list. So anyhow it is more in favor of Pakistan, and the leverage is there with Pakistan, and we are at some kind of disadvantage here. So we need to think about these issues. And if you talk about the trade, it has risen up to $2.4 billion, as I told you, from $1.94 billion within 6 years till 2018, and export stands at almost 80%. So we are an exporting nation. If we are putting duties on Pakistan's export, then it is not going to be a bigger help. And informal trade is for $4.71 billion. So that can be a big problem. And these are the data which are not much important, because these are giving the list of these exporting and importing items. But certainly this issue of SAFTA is also very important here. You see, South Asian Free Trade Agreement of 2004, where Pakistan's share in external trade is less than 10%, and India's share is more than 70%. So what is the wrong sign I have put here, less than 10%. So you can clearly see here, our export is more than 70 and their export is less than 10%. So who is going to impact? If we are going to put these duties, then certainly Pakistan's share is very less. That is the problem. So by this data, it is evident that the non-tariff measures by Pakistan, they are going to have wide range impact on Indian exports, and India's anti-M measures, they are specific on particular industries and trading partners. So we gonna have less impact on Pakistan. So we need to think it through, and this is all given in this article. So as a conclusion, we need to think it through more intensively, more deeply, and emotions are not gonna work here. If we really want to hit Pakistan's roots, then certainly more thinking should be there and less emotions, because it is the time of delivery, and whenever we are about to deliver, then we need to think. We cannot afford to be over emotional there. Next, the private sector in public health. You see, SDG's third goal is regarding ensuring healthy lives and well-being for all people at all ages. And India's disease burden is shifting from communicable disease to non-communicable disease. So we are having much more bigger challenges now. The biggest number of diabetic, cancer, COPD patients and coronary heart disease patients are going to be in India within 10 to 15 years. So it's going to be a huge and large problem for India. But we can manage this situation if our private sector is going to collaborate with the government, and we would go with a hub and spoke model that can work here, where in the center the government would work and all the facilities, all the regulations and all the policies would be framed by it, and the private sector that is going to help. And the corporate social responsibility that has not reached up to its full potential till now, that can work here. How? Because the private sector in general, they are not interested in these social sector and improvement in these social issues, and their contribution, financial contribution, they don't want to give. But through this CSR activities, 2% of their net profits of last 3 years, and certainly conditions are there that company should be having a turnover of more than 1000 crore rupees and net worth of 500 crore rupees. So they are mandated to give this 2% in this CSR activity. So this push is necessary, and that has brought a big change also, because these companies like Reliance, Tata and all these ITC, they all are working in these CSR activities in education health sector, and that should be pushed. But they should not be miffed with the government policies and all, and they should not be stressed much. There should be a collaboration, and this model can work. They need to push these private sector, but that should be a positive push, and the initiatives, they should come from the private sector. And the schemes like Ayushman Bharat, where private sector is appreciated and that is totally invited to give infrastructure and the investment. So these things are going to be game changer. So there are positive steps from the government, but certainly there are areas where we need to work, and both private and public sector, they need to come together. And some models like aspirational district program, that may bring great results with these new models. You see, in the case of gender gap, if we see, some districts were targeted where the issue of gender was very grave, and we have seen major improvement there within last 4 or 5 years, especially after this Beti Bachao and Beti Padhao Yojana that came. After this launch, much more improvement we have seen in some districts. So they were targeted as aspirational districts under this aspirational district program. So with this model we can move ahead, and this hub and spokes model which the writer is talking about, that can be proved as very positive one. Next, if we talk about the data, Tejas, the light combat aircraft, indigenously developed, very advanced, and developed by Hindustan Aeronautical Limited, HAL. HF-24 Marut was the first a supersonic fighter plane developed by HAL, and Tejas is the second one. So the Tejas is not the first one, remember this. HF-24 Marut was the first one, and now much more advancement and much more additions are being done in this Tejas, and this is the Mark 1 model of Tejas. And you see, it is going to replace the aging MiG-21 fighters. This light combat aircraft program and this particular demand is going on since 1980s, but after around 40 years this thing is completed, and finally on 20th of February, yesterday, they have got the final operating clearance, FOC. That is the most needed thing in these operations. So this HAL is developed by Aeronautical Development Agency and Hindustan Aeronautics Limited. Both these are defense agencies under the Ministry of Defense, and it's a single engine, remember this, multi-role light fighter, and designed by these organizations. So it's going to be a major improvement here. All these issues of Rafale, Tejas and HAL Dhruv and all, they should be solved as early as possible, because we are going through a phase where dire need is there. Okay, and this is Mark 1 Tejas. These are very important details from the prelims point of view. Next, the indelible ink, where till now it is only produced by a single company, MPVL, Mysore Paints and Varnish Limited, that is given the license by Election Commission of India since 1962. and they are only manufacturing this ink, the blue ink which we use in the elections. So now they are going with a new pilot project, and a different kind of invisible ink is being developed under this MPVL by the NPL, National Physical Laboratory, New Delhi, and it is going to be seen only in a ultraviolet light, and it is going to be highlighted like this. Okay, so it may solve many problems, many election issues, and important is National Physical Laboratory and this MPVL. These are the questions for the prelims examination. Okay, and many things, many explanations are going to come on this, many articles would appear. Now the map questions I'm giving you: Jog Falls, Dhuandar Falls, Krem Caves. All you need to locate on the map and go through the map and find out the difference between dunes and dwars. It's a very important question from the physical geography also, and find out their locations also. And I'm giving you a mains question today, and rest of the things, you see, if something is left in the week, and if some data is any time left in the first 4 days, I am going to complete that in the last 3 days, because in the last 3 days less articles are there and we have much time available with us. So thanks a lot. Keep watching. PDF you people are going to get in this Facebook group and the Telegram channel of StudyIQ. Thanks a lot. Keep watching. It was Amit.